Good morning. I'm Senator John Curran. We're going to wait a few seconds to get everyone into the room here before we begin. But I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Okay, I think our participant number has kind of gotten static here, so we will start. Good morning again. I am State Senator John Curran. I represent the 41st District in the Illinois Senate. I have since 2017. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We're very excited to put on what we think is going to be a very insightful and helpful seminar. Currently, I'm the minority spokesperson for the Senate Ethics Committee, as well as the Senate Assignments Committee. And I also serve on the Healthcare and Availability, Higher Education, License Activities, and Insurance Committee, as well as the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, which has become a very meaningful committee during this pandemic. This morning, to help you seize upon those hiring opportunities, today's event will bring helpful resources and information right to you so you can be effective in your job search. We have a great lineup of presenters for you, but before we get started, a couple of things to note. If you have any questions during this presentation, just post them in the chat box. They will be answered either during the presentations or after. So don't hesitate to ask any questions. We want to make sure we get all questions answered. They will be answered in order based on topic. And now, without further delay, we want to get started. So our first presenter, and in the workshops are going to go from 9 a.m. to 11 through 11 a.m. And at 11 a.m. employers will be introduced. And at 11:20 a.m. questions and answers for both the workshop presenters and the employers. Our 9 a.m. presenter, very excited, Doris Wright, Program Manager for Career Connections at Moraine Valley Community College. This topic is resume and social media branding tips to boost your job search. Doris will guide you through the process of selecting a career path using effective job search strategies and thoughtful planning for a career and not just another job. Doris is experienced in group facilitation, one-on-one career coaching, and personal development training. She will provide proven tips and tools to help job seekers move their resumes from the no pile to the yes pile in your job search process. So without any further delay, we're going to get started, and I want to thank and welcome Doris Wright from Moraine Valley Community College. You want to take it over, Doris?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for participating in this session. Hopefully you will come away with some tips to move you along in this period that we're in. There's lots of opportunity. You just need to be positioned to take advantage of it. So if I could switch, share my screen, just a second. Hopefully everyone can see that. We'll start out talking about a resume. I'm sure if you're in a job search, you have a resume, but often people confuse the purpose of a resume. First and foremost, the resume is a marketing tool. If you're in between jobs, if you're in a job search, then the product that you're selling, the service that you're selling is really you. And if you are without a job right now, your whole purpose is to work for you, work for yourself. That's why I call it You Inc. You are your business right now. And so as much time as you would spend working in a job, you should consider spending that same amount of time in marketing yourself and allowing the time, putting in the time to put your best foot forward for every opportunity that comes your way. A resume should summarize your skills and abilities and how you can contribute to a company. Too often when I see resumes, the first paragraph often speaks to what the job seeker wants. I'm looking for a career in marketing. I'm looking for a career where I can grow and develop. That's wonderful to have your own goals, but your resume should show not what you want, but should summarize what you bring to the table for the employer. In other words, the resume should speak to what the employer wants and how you can meet the employer's needs. So you're always looking at how you're presenting yourself from the perspective of your customer. And in this case, your customer is an employer. So you want to focus on the skills and abilities that matter to that particular employer. A resume is also a screening tool. HR staffs, talent recruitment staffs in most companies has decreased because of technology. And so your resumes and your applications go into a system that unfortunately is designed to screen out people. So when you're putting together and developing your resume, you want to make sure that you're not screened out, because if you're screened out, you'll never get to see a person, a real person that can make a hiring decision. Which means that your resume is also designed to get you the job interview. When I'm doing these workshops in person pre-COVID, I would ask people, what's the purpose of a resume? And some people would say to get a job. The resume doesn't get you the job. The resume gets you the job interview. But in order to get the job interview, your resume has to be seen by a person. So we'll also talk a lot in this session about how to get through the screening tools that are used. They're called applicant tracking systems, so that your resume is actually seen by someone who can make a decision on whether to hire you. In order to maximize your return on the resumes that you send out, you need to first develop a master resume. A master resume will include all of your work experience. When we tell people to develop resumes here at Career Connections at Moraine Valley, we tell them to focus on the last 10 years, because an employer wants to see what have you done over the last 10 years. But if you have a long work history, that's still valuable. And you need to be able to incorporate that experience, that skill set into your resume if it's important to the employer, without doing it in a chronological way that goes back 20 years. We'll talk about how to do that in a couple of slides. But you also need to remember all of your experience. And if you had a long career, sometimes you forget what you did 15 years ago. You may remember the title, but you forget your job, your daily duties, you forget your impact, you forget what exactly you brought to the table for that company. So we say the first thing that you need to do in your job search is sit down, spend some time thinking about your work history, even your volunteer work history, and develop a master resume that shows all of your work experience, what you did there, not just what you did there, but how you did it, what was the impact of what you did. Try to quantify that or qualify that, and that becomes a master resume. Now, you will never, ever send out the master resume, because no employer needs everything that you've learned, everything that you've experienced, and every skill set that you've had. But when you have this master, that becomes the resume that you pull from to develop a more specific and tailored resume for the job that you're applying for. It takes some time to develop a master resume. You don't do it in a couple hours or in a few hours. You need to set aside some time to really go back, unless you've not had a long work history, to go back and really think about all that you've done. Once you've developed a master resume, then you will fine tune it and update a version of it, fine tune and tweak a version of it for every job you apply for. Often when you say that, people, kind of recoil and say every job, but what if the job I'm applying for has the same job title as the last one I applied for? Can I just submit that resume? And we say that you should be very strategic and targeted in your job search. If you really want the job you're applying for, then you need to spend the time to tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for, even if it has the same job title. a particular employer may underscore a certain skill set that's important to that employer, but that skill set may be less important to another, and they are more interested in your attention to detail. While one employer, even though it has the same job title, may be interested in your ability to relate to people. You want to make sure that your resume speaks to the posting that you're applying for, because that means that it's speaking to the employer about their needs and saying, I'm that person. I'm the person that you just described in this posting. So you will need to tweak your resume, fine tune it for every position that you're applying for, if you really want that position. That improves your chances of getting through the screening system, of getting through the applicant tracking system to really be considered. Because the more that your resume matches the posting and the job description and what the employer is looking for, the higher your score will be once it goes through the applicant tracking system, and that increases your chances of being forwarded to a hiring manager or a talent recruitment person. How do you tailor your resume? You tailor it by using keywords and phrases that are specific to the posting. You want to actually set your resume and the posting side by side and see what they have in common. Now, I'm never saying make up things. You only tailor it if it's true. You only use the words if they really apply to what you did, but you want to spend that time to compare. That's how you tailor. Also, just keep in mind that when you're going through an applicant tracking system, it auto-populates the application from your resume. If it's not auto-populating correctly, there may be some formatting issues, and we recommend that you keep your resume that you're uploading as simple as possible. No gimmicks, no special designs or graphics. That may be great if you're sending it to a person in an email and you want to wow them with your creativity. But to get through an applicant tracking system, you need to make it as simple as possible. Words are very powerful. You need to be very, very intentional about how you use the words in a resume. The goal of the applicant tracking system, as I said, is not just to find qualified applicants, but to screen out what are deemed unqualified applicants. But you may actually be qualified for a position and get screened out simply because you didn't speak the applicant tracking system's language. You want to make sure that you're talking to the system in a way that the system understands what you bring to the table. Unfortunately, 75% of applicants don't get through the tracking system just because of the words they use in their resume. The applicants' resumes are always ranked on how closely they match keywords and phrases, how many matches. That rank, as I said before, determines if it's seen by a person. And to get hired, in most cases, you do need to be seen by a person. This is an example of a job posting for DSW in Orland. The hypothetical person that pulled this job posting went through it and highlighted words that seem to be important to the position. If you see words that are repeated several times in a job posting, that means that's really a skill set that's important. You need to pay attention to that. And as you are underlining or highlighting these words, you're also thinking, did I do this? Can I speak to this? Can I incorporate these words if they're not already there in my own resume? And then, of course, anytime where it says qualifications, you want to make sure that you speak to those qualifications. If it says here, good written and verbal communication skills, if you have good written and verbal communication skills, you want to use those exact words in your resume. Some people say, well, doesn't it look like I just copied and pasted at that point? No, it looks like you're qualified for the job at that point, and that's what you want to display. If an employer took the time to craft a job posting, then they were intentional about what they put in that posting. And so you should be intentional as well. Where can you add these keywords? The easiest place to incorporate the keywords are in your opening statement. Your opening statement is a branding statement that summarizes your qualities, your skill set, your contributions. When you have a chronicle listing of your work experience, it's not as easy to tailor that because you did what you did, right? But you can use keywords to describe it differently. But in your summary of qualifications, that's the really rich piece of your resume, because you may not have on the resume that you submit the work that you did 15 years ago because you only went back 10 years. But the experience and the expertise and the accomplishments that you had 15 years ago can be incorporated in the top half of your resume here under summary of qualifications. So if they're asking for a skill set that you haven't done in the last 10 years, but you still have it, then guess what? You talk about it up front. You talk about it in the summary of qualifications. Some people call this professional summary. Some people call this accomplishments. Whatever you call it, the top half of your resume is the most important part of your resume, not only in being able to incorporate keywords, but also when you get through that applicant tracking system, because if you take the time to tailor your resume, you have a high percentage of getting through. When you get through that applicant tracking system and the resume is forwarded to a hiring manager, guess what? They have lots of resumes still to go through. So what keeps them reading to the end of your resume is what they read when they first start looking at it. If your summary of qualifications really says, I can do the job that you've posted, I can fulfill the position that you've listed, then they keep reading. If the first things they read don't really speak to what they want, but instead you put, so this person put a retail professional passionate about providing friendly and helpful customer service. If we were to go back to that posting, professional, passionate, friendly, customer service, those words are all in that posting. Experience includes 2 years cashiering, cash handling, unloading, merchandising, markdowns, and other store operations. If we were to go back to that posting, under qualifications, you saw cashiering, cash handling, unloading, excellent written and verbal communications. We saw that exact phrase in the job posting. So once you've gotten through the applicant tracking system and a real person, a hiring manager or a talent recruitment person is reading this and they see right up front everything that they need, then they keep reading. They're interested in you. Now, who's to say that that retail experience was something that the person had recently? Maybe they had this retail experience 15 years ago, but they can put it up top because it's still important. And they took the time to develop a master resume that went way back and reminded them of all of their contributions and attributes. You also want to, when you're talking about your attributes and your accomplishments, you also want to quantify it or qualify it. What do I mean by that? You want to show that it's real, that you can back it up, and that you're not just incorporating words from the job posting. How do you do that? You do that because you can point to acknowledgement of your efforts. You either qualify it if you can. So in here it says 70% success in loyalty program registrations, right? 2 years of perfect attendance. That's quantifying it. That's putting a number to it. Perhaps you can't quantify it, but you can qualify it. Employee of the month. So there was no number attached to that necessarily, but you were acknowledged for something. So you're qualifying the statement, even if you can't quantify it. Always do this. Whenever you have accomplishments that you're listing, try to either qualify it or quantify it, because it adds credibility to what you're stating. So, oh, this person is not just stating that they're a good team player or that they're good in collaboration, they actually received acknowledgement. They were Employee of the Month. Oh, this person is not just saying that they're timely and they're reliable. They had 2 years of perfect attendance. So quantify or qualify the accomplishment statements that you make in your resume. The profile summary statement, which is the really important, a really important part of your resume. I liken that part of your resume to real estate. You know, it's the most valuable real estate on your resume. You know, they say, what is it about real estate? What's important about real estate? Location, location, location. The top half of your resume is prime location. So you want to say in the top half, the position that you're seeking, the industry that you're interested in, the specific strengths and transferable skills that you possess that are relevant for that job, the expertise that you have that is relevant for that job. The example here is experience in creating budgets and supervising staff. When we qualify or quantify that statement, you might say less than 10% turnover of my staff over a 3-year period, which means that you have a way of supervising people, that there's not a lot of turnover, creating budgets that you were always under budget or on budget for 5 years. So that's not a number. You're not quantifying it, but you're qualifying it with that statement. And then you want to indicate any personality traits that are important to that job, right? So we look at the, think about the DSW one, they talked about customer service. So you want to be able to say that you're a great communicator, that you enjoy working with people, that kind of thing, that your customer service, you received awards for customer service, things that speak to your personality, those intangibles that show that you could be a good fit. If your education or credentials are relevant, you want to put that up top as well in that summary statement, but only if it's relevant. So if you have credentials, you're going after an IT position and you have credentials that show you've taken the time to pass industry exams and you have industry recognized credentials, you want that up top. You want the person reviewing your resume to see that right away. Always remember too that this is the first interaction once you get past the applicant tracking system and someone is reading your resume. This is their first interaction with you. So you want to put your best foot forward. You want to make sure you've made no mistakes as it relates to capitalization, punctuation, and grammar. That really matters. Of course, you can use spell check in developing any document, but you also want to proofread it yourself. You want to have someone else proofread it as well, because when we write things, we read them the way we thought we wrote them. We often overlook misspellings. And it's important to read it even if you've used spell check, because there are some words. Now Microsoft Office is getting more sophisticated and it can determine when you really wanted to use from, but instead you typed form. I do that all the time. But you know, sometimes certain systems won't pick it up because form is a word, just like from. So if you really meant from, but you typed form, spell check may not pick that up. Proofreading could pick it up, and having someone else proofreading it is really important because they see things that you don't see. When you are submitting your resume, just some tips through an applicant tracking system, you don't have to submit it more than once. If you haven't heard from someone, it's not because your resume didn't get into the system. If you got an email saying it was received, it was received. You don't have to submit it more than once. If you submit your resume too many times through an applicant tracking system, it could kick it out. We don't want it kicked out. When you're also doing these applications that accompany your resume, because you have to upload your resume, but you also have to complete an application. Make sure that you're always truthful. make sure that you never speak negatively when they ask, why did you leave this employer? It seems like common sense, but sometimes people vent. Never say anything bad about a previous employer, previous coworkers. Don't assign blame when you talk about why you left a particular position. The characteristics of an effective resume, they have powerful accomplishment statements. When it gets to the chronological account of your history of your work experience, a powerful, effective resume does not just list duties and job functions. I call that a laundry list. You know, it doesn't tell the reviewer anything about what kind of an employee you are. When you just list your duties and the functions, it's just the list. If you say answered phones and did filing, well, you know, pretty much, anyone doing office work can answer a phone. But how did you answer it? Did you troubleshoot in answering phones and taking customer calls? Were you great at troubleshooting? Were you problem solving? Did you answer the phone in such a way that you increase customer satisfaction? Were you able to route the call quickly to the appropriate person? That says not just what you did, answered phones, but it says how you did it and the impact of how you did it. That makes a recruiter actually able to see you in that position and see you adding value to that position. A 3-year-old can answer a phone, but a professional who cares about their job doesn't just do something any kind of way. They do it with intention, and they add value in the doing of it. You always want to list your strongest skills and qualifications, as I said, up front. You can change keywords in the work experience section too. You can't change what you did, right? But you can change how you present what you did. So if the posting uses words like teamwork or collaboration, and you have that you contributed or something like that, you may be thinking about the same kind of attribute, right? You contributed, you were part of the team, but you didn't say I was a part of the team, or you didn't say I was great at teamwork. You just said I contributed. You did it, so you're not lying, just change the words. So as you go through your job duties, not only think about how you did it, but think about how you phrase what you're articulating about what you did, so that those keywords get picked up by the applicant tracking system as well. You want to have a consistent format in your resume. You want to make sure that the position titles, places of employment stand out, either bold them, underline them, or italicize, but be consistent in what you do. Have the same format as you address every work experience that you've had. Only list, and this is going to, for some people, get in your craw, but only list the skills and qualifications that are relevant to that position. I said that early on, but I'm saying it again, because if you have, if you have 10 attributes or 10 functions that you did in a particular job, but only 5 are relevant to that position, then only talk about the 5. It leaves you more room to expand, as I said, to qualify or quantify those 5 that the employer is interested in. You may be very proud of the other 5. You may be very proud of all 10, and so you want to show all 10. But remember, you're not sending the resume to yourself. You're sending the resume to an employer that's looking for something specific. So if you have a skill or accomplishment that's important to you, but it's not important to the employer, then the employer unfortunately doesn't care. You are selling yourself to meet the employer's need, not just to puff yourself up. That's why generic resumes that list everything that you send to everyone are not effective. That's why people say, I sent out 100 resumes and I haven't gotten any callbacks, because none of your resumes really spoke to the position or the employer's need. If you are applying for multiple jobs at one company, I mentioned before, don't upload multiple resumes because it'll be kicked out. But if you are applying for different positions at the company, then that's fine. And you still want to tailor your resume to those different positions, meaning that what you highlight in your summary of accomplishments is going to change because the position is different. Provided you have that skill set, then you want to show that skill set. The things that won't change, however, if you are applying to more than one position at a particular company, are what you did at the previous roles that you had. You can still highlight different duties, but if it asks you things like how many years of experience, then you want to be consistent in what you say. You don't want to massage, to say politely, your resume to meet a particular job posting. If you have 5 years experience doing something, don't stretch it and say, well, I was really at the company 7 years, and the first 2 years I wasn't doing that, but just let me say 7 years so I meet the criteria. Don't do that. The applicant tracking system can compare your submissions. If your submissions about the crucial things don't line up, then again, a sophisticated ATS can kick you out. How long should your resume be? When you're uploading it to an applicant tracking system, it really doesn't matter how long it is. However, if it's too long, then even if you get through the applicant tracking system, when it gets in front of a person, you don't want the person to stop reading. So you want the length of your resume to be consistent with your experience and the job that you're seeking. If you're seeking an entry-level job, then you won't have a 3-page resume. You won't have a 2-page resume likely. But if you're a mid-level professional or post-college degree holder, if you have lots of credentials, particularly in IT, if you have lots of credentials, then your resume perhaps will go to 2 or 3 pages. If you are a top-level executive, then of course you have a long history that's relevant to that job, and your resume will be longer. In technology, I mentioned 2 to 3 pages. Credentials are key if you're going for an IT job. And so they want to know all of the languages, all of the systems, all the platforms and that. So it could be longer. In academia, you could go on forever. They want to know if you published something, your curriculum vitae, as they say, they want to know all of your credentials, but just make sure that your resume is the appropriate length based upon industry, education, and experience. So an effective resume will be visually powerful. It will have keywords and phrases. It'll be free of gimmicks. It will not have cash-only jobs on them, because cash-only jobs indicate perhaps that you avoided taxes. You don't ever want to do that, number one. But number two, you don't ever want to present yourself as someone who lacks integrity. It should be easy to read and understand. Of course, it should be professional looking, and you should use the right words and action words to describe your experience, and it should be 100% truthful. I already talked about qualifying and quantifying. You want to use numbers and percentages. And this is part of developing the master resume. In your master resume, you're not only going back to think about what you did, but like I said, how you did it, how you were recognized for your efforts, how you improve the organization or a process. We often don't think about that, particularly if you've been in a position for a while. Sometimes it becomes routine, and the way you do it becomes routine. You're doing a good job, but you don't even recognize it anymore because it's second nature to you. And so you're not often aware until you take the time to sit down and think about, what have I done over my life? How did it improve the organization? I use the example answering the phone because that's a simple activity, but the way people answer a phone can actually increase an organization's revenue or retention of customers, or it can turn customers away. It's a really important function that people take for granted and think of as routine. You can improve an organization and increase their customer base simply by the way that you answer the phone, but you have to look at your duties and think about, again, not only what you did, but how you did it and what was the impact. Did it improve the organization or a process? If you filed and you came in and you reorganized or you changed the way the filing system worked, you just improved a process. You want to make sure you use that kind of language that highlights your accomplishments and shows not just what you did, but how you did it. If you satisfied a customer, if you build a rapport that increased customer retention, if you developed a program, you always want to get that kind of language into the resume. It makes you stand out. It takes time to do this, but if you're really going after a job you want, remember the first thing I showed you, it's you Inc. You are marketing yourself. Your job right now, if you don't have a job, is to promote you Inc. So developing this kind of strategic, targeted approach to sending out resumes is time well spent. This is just a template. I'm sure everyone's seen this, but you start with your summary. If you have skills that you want to highlight, you can bullet those, and then you go into your work experience, again, being very consistent in your format. You can put your education. If your education is relevant to the job and they're actually specifically seeking a certain level of education, again, you want to incorporate that in your profile or perhaps put it above the work experience. If they don't really highlight education as being particularly relevant, then it should come after experience. If you have professional associations or volunteer activities, and again, they are relevant to the position that you're seeking, then you want to include those. If they are not relevant, then you don't want to include those. So if you are on a bowling league and bowling has nothing to do with the job that you're interested in, then you don't need to put that down. However, if you're president of a bowling league, if you're the developer fundraiser for a bowling league, and those skill sets are important to the job that you're seeking, then put it down. If you're a fundraiser for the league, and you want to talk about if you increased fundraising over year to year, that's important, put it down. But if you were a bowler and that's not important, leave it off. Again, your resume is the first writing sample an employer ever sees. Think about you Inc. If you see a flyer or you get some marketing material for a particular service or item, then the quality of that material will sometimes mistakenly, unfortunately, give you a negative perspective, a sense of that business, right? So you won't even check it out further. And it could be a good business. It could just be that they have really, bad marketing or hadn't spent any money on marketing or spent the time or whatever. So their materials are not up to par, but it can turn some people off. You want to make sure that your resume reflects the quality that you bring to the table, because it's the first writing example. It's the first impression that an employer gets of you. Should you submit a cover letter? I say it's another opportunity to promote yourself, to show the employer what you bring to the table. So yes, but only again, if you use the cover letter to show the employer that you understand their company, you understand their need, and that you are the person who can help them meet their needs and improve their process and their business. If it's a cover letter that just says, I'm very interested in the job that you posted, I'm very interested in working with your company, and I hope to have a time to interview with you, that's a cover letter that you can keep. That's a cover letter that you say, I'm a hiring manager. I'm looking at resumes quite frequently. I'm looking at cover letters quite frequently. And if someone doesn't really say something about themselves and how they can meet my need, if they just say, I'm interested in meeting with you, then it's not impressive to me. And it actually shows me that they were a bit lazy. They didn't take the time to understand the company, or in my case, the college or workforce or career connections. And they just kind of blanket this and send this out to everyone. You want to show that you took the time to understand the company, that you know something about them. So the example here, if you're applying for an executive assistant position, you know the organization and multitasking abilities are really important. Then instead of saying, I'm excited about applying as an executive assistant to XYZ company, you say, if your executive level office needs a highly trained, equipped to equipped to handle many duties and tasks in your fast-paced work environment, then I'm the person for you, or I'd like to meet with you. I have those credentials. I have that experience. And then your second paragraph should give an example of that experience, right? Always backing it up, not just words, but adding credibility. In this case, you can add a story that shows when you did this, when you supported many executives, or when you had to multitask. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 3 sentences, but again, it adds credibility and it shows you know their business, and it shows you have the skill set to help them with their business. Another example, with 15 years of, so be specific about the qualifications that match the company's posting. Example, with 15 years of experience assisting high-level executives, I'm prepared to oversee the day-to-day tasks that make your business operations flow smoothly. I manage calendars, schedule meetings, arrange travel, initiating and maintaining efficient writing, so on and so forth. That's the second paragraph that really backs up your assertions that you could do it. You said, I did it. This is what I did. So in summary, you can develop resumes and cover letters that don't just go into a black hole. Don't just, you send them, you never hear about them again, but powerful resumes that land in the keep file, that speak for you when you're not there, that show that you are the person they should bring in to see, because you have the qualifications necessary to do the job. So if they bring you in, it's because they want to see if you're a good fit. Not so much if you have the qualifications. They're calling you in because you have the qualifications and they can see it. They want to see now, are you a good fit? So as we said to start, a good resume will get you the interview. That's really what you want it to do, to get you the interview. If you are looking for a job, of course, there are general sites like Indeed, but you should also consider searching on sites that are associated with the industry or the occupation that you're interested in. There are many associations, IT, healthcare, manufacturing, legal, that have their own job boards. You want to look at those sites as well. So let's just also briefly talk about social media. It's important. When you're sending your resume out, you have this footprint out there, and people will be checking, what's your footprint? Everyone right now uses social media for good or for bad. Use it for good. Research the company. When we talk about being able to speak in the cover letter to the company's needs, that's because likely you've researched social media, either on LinkedIn or elsewhere, to learn about the company, to sign up for alerts on the company. So you're first to get their press release, you're first to get news about the companies that you've targeted. So use social media for the good. Review past reviews, review their latest posts, look for any community involvement that they may have. It gives you a sense of their values and their mission to see if it's a good fit for you, right? Because when you're job searching, you're not just trying to find any job. You're not just trying to sell them on you, but you also want to be sold on them. You want to make it a good fit. Employers do check your social media profiles. We all know that by now, right? But unfortunately, we don't all act as if they do. Consider what your profile picture is. You want it to be one, particularly if you're in the middle of a job search. You want it to be one that reflects highly of you, that shows that you're, you know, a reliable, serious person. You don't want to have any pictures with red cups in your hand, party poses, or anything like that. Check your posts to eliminate those that don't put you in a good light, don't show you as a team player. Don't you want to omit any angry posts? Check your Twitter feed. Don't get into Twitter battles and that kind of stuff. But be mindful that you are developing a brand on social media. There is something about your posts and about your pictures that tell people who you are and what you bring to the table and how you interact. Make sure that the brand that you're building is consistent with the job that you want. If you're one of the people who play a lot of games or personality quizzes on Facebook or wherever, check those and perhaps take those off your feed. Be mindful of the groups that you're in. And you can also use social media in a good way, because you can particularly become part of groups that are connected to the industry or the occupations that you're seeking. One, it helps your networking, but also it shows, should an employer check, that you have an interest in the field that you're pursuing, that you might have ideas that are fresh, that you stay on top of the industry. Branding is super important. Branding can help you or it can hurt you. The most successful companies, their brand helps them. And when you see their logos, you automatically have a sense of you have an impression, let me say that, of that company. So the Nike swoop, right? You see that, and my first thought is just do it. It's about excellence. It's about persistence. It's about overcoming. The Mercedes-Benz, it's about quality, right? The Apple icon is about innovation. So think about yourself. When people see you, what is it that your face connotes to them? What is the impression of you when they see you? So think about also using social media. As I said, for job search, I talked about Indeed. You can follow companies on Indeed. Companies post their jobs on Indeed. Associations post their job on Indeed. Facebook also has a site for search on jobs. A lot of people don't know about this, but you could go to facebook.com/jobs. You can identify the location, the industry, and the type of job that you're seeking. You can follow, again, certain companies. You can do certain postings. So if you're going to use social media, use it wisely and not recklessly. So you want to Google your name when we talk about recklessly and see what's out there about you, and try to get anything that's out there cleaned up. Unfortunately, social media's footprint is really deep. And it's sometimes difficult to get some things eliminated, but even if you can't, just know what's out there, so maybe you can get ahead of it and address it in case an employer has seen it. You want to include your elevator speech. You know, if you've done resume workshops like this, you've probably also gone through you've gone through exercises where you developed a resume speech, an elevator speech. You want to make sure that the elevator speech is part of your social media profile, that it describes you, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or wherever you have this caption that says something about yourself. You want to use that as your banner, if you will. You want to use the elevator speech as your banner. This is who I am. So I'm about 7 minutes earlier. I see we're going to have questions at the end, and someone raised their hand during the session, but we'll address your question, or 2 people raised their hand. We'll address your question at the end. And thank you. I hope this was helpful to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions once we're done.
Okay, Therese, thank you very much. Very helpful, especially, the tips on, I was always one to send it in multiple times, resumes, so never occurred to me that with new processing systems that could cause things to get kicked out. And certainly social media is so incredibly important. It's so important in what I do and the image you project. So I think that was very wise advice.
Thank you.
We are going to continue on. We're running a few minutes early, but that's just going to give us a little more time for questions at the end. So, I see Rosie Carter is on. Yes. Rosie, okay, you unmuted, so let me do introduction. So our next session is tips for a successful virtual interview. We've certainly moved into the virtual world the past 18 months and as we are today. And we have Rosie Carter, job readiness specialist, educator in workforce development for the Southwest American Job Center of Daly College. Rosie has over 15 years in workforce development. Her key areas of concentration consist of life skills training and career development, where she assists customers and clients with customizing their resumes and coaching them for successful virtual on-site interviews. Rosie has worked for the Employment and Employer Services over 9 years, assisting 5,000 plus customers attain training, resources, and livable wage employment through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act program. As a result, many customers were able to become self-sufficient entrepreneurs or exceed in their career path, which is what we're here to do today. So this is exciting. If you have any questions during Rosie's workshop, she's going to answer them at the end of her presentation. I know she's got to move on to something else after her presentation, but thrilled that you're with us. Just a little more background. Rosie holds a master's of science degree from DePaul University with an emphasis in public administration and communications, and also has various certificates of completion and accomplishment in education and training. Very excited to have you take the time to join us and all our attendees here this morning, Rosie. You want to take it away?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, slide share, please. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Now, this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about landing the job virtually, okay? Tips for successful virtual interviews. And we know that the purpose of interviews is to determine if we are a good fit for the company and if the company is a good fit for us. So in essence, interviewing is really a two-way street. It's not all about the company. It's not all about me. It's a two-way street. Now, let's look at virtual interviewing. Now, that's new to a lot of us because most of us, I think we're so accustomed to that, that on-site interviews, but things have changed. Things have changed quite a bit in the last year or so. Let's look at what a virtual interview is. A virtual interview is an interview that utilizes technology, whether it's by computer or whether it's with your iPhone. It's usually off-site or it involves some form of technology. Now, this is very common. This is becoming very, very common. Even before COVID-19, a lot of companies were still doing a lot of virtual interviews. Well, now after COVID, as we can see, that's very common now. Matter of fact, it's going to be the way of the future. So we might as well get prepared for it. Next slide, please. Okay, my next slide. Okay, all right. So what is our agenda for today? We're going to cover how to do the job search strategy. We're going to look at virtual versus face-to-face interviewing, preparation for the virtual interviews. And of course, at the very end of the process, there will be time, we will allow plenty of time for questions and answers. Next slide, please. Advance the slides, please.
Yeah, Rosie, I'm sorry, we seem to be having a little technical difficulty. I'm gonna,
Oh, okay. We will continue to go on. We're not going to let that stop us. We're going on.
Sorry.
That's technology for us. Okay. Now, before you interview, you want to plan for that interview. Anything that we plan for, we're likely to do better at it. It's likely to be more successful. That's anything. If you are talking about opening up a business, you are likely to be more successful if you plan ahead, as opposed to just jumping into that business. The same concept applies if you're going on an interview. So you want to prepare. Don't just jump on your interview. You want to prepare for it. You want to develop a strategy for your job search. No, don't just go jumping on that interview, not planning anything, not researching anything. That's not good. You're setting yourself up for failure. So now, as part of your strategy, part of your research, you want to research the company. You never, ever go on a job search without researching the company. Never go on the job interview. Never go on the job interview, should I say, without taking the time to research the company. Now, in researching the company, what do I want to find out? Now, with any company, there's a wealth of information out there. It's a wealth of information. I can go to the internet. I can key in XYZ company, ABC company. I can find out basically anything that I want to know. I can find out how long have they been around. I can find out something about the mission statement. I can find out what's their brand. I can find out what are they doing in the community. Anything I want to know, pretty much I can find out if I take the time to research. I can look at their financial statements to see how stable they are. All of that information I could find out. It doesn't make you look very good if you go on the interview and that interviewer say, Ms. Carter, what do you know about us? And I'm going, oh, nothing. I was going to ask you. That's not good. That's not good. It shows that you're not prepared. And it also indicates that you're not that interested. If you don't take the time to do your research and find out something about that company, in that company's opinion, you're not that interested. So you want to take the time and do your research. You want to ask yourself, what is it that I really, really want to do? Now, sometimes when I'm working with customers or client, and I may say, John, what do you want to do? I don't know, Ms. Carter, anything. That's not a good answer. Know thyself. What is it that you want to do? It's an old saying that if you're doing what you really like doing, you're not really working. So when you find something that you really want to do, that you really like, it's not really a job. I like what I do. I like what I do. I like helping customers. Therefore, I don't look at it as being a job. It's more of a hobby to me because I could do this on weekends. I could do this after hours. Why? Because it's something that I like to do. So before you even start your job search, ask yourself, what is it that I want to do? What do I like? What do I want? Then you also want to look at what companies might be vulnerable right now. In other words, what companies are maybe not quite so stable right now. Those type of companies I would call high risk, you might want to stay away from. Then two, you also want to look at future opportunities. Now, all of this now can come with your research. When you look at companies that are growing, companies that are stables, those are the type of companies that you want to focus on. Also, too, what companies are thriving, even in the midst of COVID. You still have companies that are still thriving. They're still growing. Look at those companies. They're going to be around. If they can thrive through COVID, they're going to be around for a while. So those type of company you want to focus on. What products, what services are in great demand? Now, we know one product and service during COVID was in great demand was toilet paper, right? Sanitizer, those type of toiletries. You also want to look at services, technology. Since COVID, technology is in high demand. My skills, I have to say, since 2020, my skills in technology has improved tremendously through using Zoom, Brazen, different type of platforms. I had to learn it. Why? It was needed, in demand. So those are the type of things that you want to look at when you are doing your job search or when you are going on interviews. Oh, okay. Okay, here we are. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Okay.
So Rosie, what were you on slide 3 or did you want to start?
Yes,
with
yeah, you're on the right one. Yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about
you're on
that.
That's okay. We're on the right one. Okay. Now, yeah, we look at the research process. Well, you say, well, okay, what do I really want to do? What do I want? It's important that you have what you want to do. Okay, next thing, I want to locate. How do I find this information out? Internet, do your research, internet. Okay, select the information that would be relevant to your job search. Organize your information. How am I going to go about presenting this in my interview? And do an overall assessment of things. So all of this is part of preparation. Do your research. Do not walk into things blindly. Next slide, please. Now, when you look at, next slide, when you look at developing your action plan, okay, where it talks about building on intelligent risk. Now that might be a new word for some people. What's intelligent risk? Now we know there's regular risk that we take all the time. Jumping out on faith, leap of faith. You don't know how things are going to happen. You don't know how things are going to turn out, but you know what? I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to jump out on faith. Okay, that's a form of risk. But then we have what we call intelligent risk. But we have to really strategize and analyze things and ask yourself, is this a good idea? Well, maybe I shouldn't do this now. Okay, this company is asking me to have certain certifications, certain credentials, certain skills. I don't have those things. Do I want to take the risk and leave where I am and go for this or what? That's what we call intelligent risk, where you really begin to think things through and not just jump out there on a leap of faith. Now, what do I want to do? I want to match what I want to do with open opportunities, open markets that are thriving. So you want to do this in an intelligent and strategic manner. You want to tweak your resumes. Doris just talked about resumes and what have you. Make sure you update and tweak your resume according to the job. You want to identify the issues that the company may have and what can you do or what can you offer to resolve them. Now, how do you know that? Once again, back to your research. Do your research. Your research is very, very important. It talks about creating a supporting cover letter if needed. Now, all companies don't ask for cover letter. Some do, some don't. If they ask for it, I just say give it to them. Now, if you're entry level, you may or may not need a cover letter. If you're making a transition from one industry to the other one, you may need a cover letter to explain why you're making your transition, and always include your transferable skills. Now, you may not always have all the skills that that company is looking for. I don't think any of us would have 100%, but you may have those transferable skills that you can use in that new position. For example, say if I was applying for a position as a career coach, and that's what we have here. We have career coaches, but maybe I've never worked as a career coach. I've been a social worker. If I look at the transferable skills, as a social worker, I have a lot of the skills that I would need to be a successful career coach. Social workers make assessments, so do career coaches. Social workers make referrals, so do career coaches. Social workers have to do case noting, so do career coaches. Okay, so those are transferable skills that could qualify me for that new position. Then you want to begin to apply for these roles. You can go to LinkedIn, you could do some follow-up, you could do all of this is part of research now. You want to make connection with people who are able to help you move your application or your resume forward. Connecting with LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, okay, where I have a lot of people I connect with or people I network with. You can also use staffing agencies. Sometimes, we can start off with a staffing agency and they can have all type of opportunities for us to go full time. So don't look at staffing agency and say, well, this is just something temporary. It may not be. You get in, you do a good job, you apply yourself. That could become a full-time career for you. Next slide, please. Okay. The next slide. Okay. Now we talk about the call. Okay. Now that you have submitted your resume and you have what the employer is looking for, and you get that phone call. Hello, Ms. Carter. We're really interested in you. We want to set up a virtual interview for you. That's that call that I've been waiting for. Now it's showtime. Now, there are different types of platforms. Next slide. Next slide, please. There are different types of platforms that employers may use for interviewing, okay? Now, virtual interviews versus face-to-face interview. Now, some people do well with virtual interviews, some people don't. Some people do well with face-to-face, some don't. It all depends on the individual. But since virtual interviews seem to be the way of the future, I think we might as well get prepared to know how to do virtual interviews, whether we want to do them or not. That's just the way for the future. And we have to know how to change with the times. And that's the times now. Now let's look at the difference between the two. Now, virtual, that's when electronic devices are needed, okay? Whether it's my computer, my phone, people use iPhones, speakers, all type of electrical devices or electronic devices are required. Then you could have what we call a one-way interview. What's a one-way interview? Basically, with a one-way interview, you're talking to the screen. You're looking at a screen, it's going to ask you a question, and you're going to respond, and it's being recorded. There are no other people there at the time. It's just you and that computer, or you and that screen. It's one-to-one, it's one-on-one with that screen. You are timed, and you want to make sure that you answer or respond to those questions in a timely manner. That's what a one-way interview is. There are no other people interacting with you at that time. It's all one way. You're asked the question, you give your answer, and it's recorded. Now, a live interview, of course, is when there are other people on the other end that you're interacting with. Now, you could have a live interview one-on-one. You could have a panel interview, where there's 3, 4, 5 people interviewing you. That's a live interview when you're interacting with other people. Remote, what is a remote interview? Remote interview is where you're in one location and I'm in another location. I could be in New York and you could be in Chicago and we could have our interview. I could be in the conference room and you could be at the library. It's remote, it's not face-to-face. Now, with face-to-face, that's kind of self-explanatory. No electronic devices are required. It's in person. I'm in your office. Now, we don't see a lot of that now, okay? Whereby I can set up an appointment or interview. I could come in, we go in the conference room, and we interview face-to-face. You might not see that a lot, okay? If so, we got to do the social distancing, we got to wear a mask and so on and so forth. So that has changed tremendously over the last year. You could have one-on-one, once again, or you could have several people interviewing you at the same time. But nevertheless, it's live and it's face-to-face in person. Now, let me ask the million-dollar question. It says, do you need to prepare for a virtual interview if you were in a face-to-face interview? The answer is an astounding yes. Yes, you do. Whether I'm with you face-to-face or whether I'm with you remote, it doesn't matter. I still have to prepare. So don't get too comfortable if you're doing a virtual interview and you feel like you can be relaxed and there's certain things that you don't have to do. Not so. Next slide, please. Okay, let's look at a few platforms that employers use for virtual interviews. We have what we call HireVue. HireVue is very common, very common. A lot of employers use HireVue. And what they would do is they send you a link. And then at the time of your interview, you click onto that link and you will, of course, have an interview, just like we're doing right now with the presentation. Then there's another one called Spark, Hire, VidCruiter, Interview Screen, Skype, Zoom, all type of platforms that an employer may use to do the virtual interview. Now, interviewing tips. You want to make sure that you download the platform for your interview ahead of time. Do not wait to the day of your interview to test things out. Not a good idea. And we know how technology is. Sometimes it may work the way you want it to, and sometimes it doesn't. So you might want to test it out ahead of time. You want to get acquainted with the features of it. What is this button for? What is this key for? What is that for? You want to be familiar with that ahead of time. You want to set your settings. You want to get rid of all distractions in your background. No distraction, nothing that would distract that employer. Nothing on your walls. It's preferable, just like my background here. It's clear, it's plain, it's a white background, nothing on the walls. So you want to get rid of distractions. Make sure your computer is at eye level. Your speaker is on where you can speak directly into the computer. Now, you don't want to get too close to your computer and you don't want to be too far back. So I always say use arm length as a measurement, arm length. So that way you're not too far back and you're not too close. Okay. You always want to make sure that you treat your virtual interview just like it's a face-to-face. Okay, next slide. Now, what this is the actual little video that we got from YouTube, okay? And it's just going to give you some tips about virtual interview. And this is an actual from HireView, and they're going to give us some tips on what we should do to get prepared for our virtual interviews. Okay, can we click on? There we go. Only a few minutes. Can we turn the volume? Do we have the volume? Okay. Okay, can we get the volume so we can hear it?
Yeah, I'm not hearing on my end either, Rosie.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, maybe we're going to have to try to come back to this.
Well, okay.
Oh, here,
Okay.
Pause, so we're getting on it.
Okay, if not, then not a problem. We have to
Here we
adjust,
go.
right? That's technology. You have to move on.
We'll have volume here.
Okay. Okay. Not that one. Okay, we're too far. Oh. Okay, okay, if we can't get the volume, we can move on. We can move on.
Okay, go ahead and move on.
Okay. Okay, let's go back. So let's just go back to the last slide, but we can move on. Go back to the last slide. And I can just recap. I can just recap it. Okay, all right. Now we want to master our virtual interview. So we want to get prepared. Okay, now I'm going to give you just a few highlights, a few tips of what you should do in order to get prepared. Now, number one, as I indicated, you want to pick a location for your interview. Make sure it's quiet, no distraction. I don't want to hear the radio playing. I don't want to hear music going, the TV playing. I don't want to hear outside noises. I don't want to hear the dog barking, the cat meowing, the fish flapping. No noise in the background. No noise. You're on an interview. Also, once again, Test your equipment prior to the interview. Make sure you know how to operate the platform. The computer or the phone, whatever you're using, should be all powered up. Make sure your internet connection is good. And you know, as I indicated, sometimes equipment, as we can see, has its own mind at times. So you want to make sure that you are familiar with all the features. Make sure your lighting is good so that the interviewer can clearly see you. Your facial expression, your body language. Remember now, this is an interview just like it was face to face. Position yourself. So once again, you are clear and the interviewer can see you. Make sure the audio is working and the volume is high enough so that that employer can once again hear you and you don't sound like you're mumbling or you're too far back. Adjust your cameras so that you don't appear too close or too far back. Use arm length as a measurement. Also to dress. How do I want to dress? Dress professionally. You want to dress as if you're on an actual interview in the office. It's the same thing. You want to make sure you are clean, you're well-groomed, you're neat, you're coordinated. You know, if it's a business professional, we want to make sure we wear our suits, your tie, your button-down shirt, hair neat, clean, well-groomed. I prefer earth tone colors. Navy blue, black, gray, beige, tan. You can't go wrong with those colors. You want to stay away from flashy colors, loud colors. Ladies, let's wear our suits or at least a jacket with a blouse. You don't want to wear too much makeup. Tone it down a little bit. Jewelry, same thing. Tone your jewelry down. No trendy hairstyle. Keep it conservative. If you stay conservative, you can't go wrong. Another thing, you want to make sure you practice. Practice ahead of time. Practice make perfect. Project the type of questions that you think they're going to ask you. Practice, 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 practice. If you're not sure, go on the internet and research. Interviewing question for a truck driver. It may give you a list of questions. Interviewing question for medical assistant. It gives me a list of questions that I can practice with. Practice, practice, practice. You can practice with another person and have them to critique you, or you can do the old, what I call the mirror effect. What's the mirror effect? Mirror effect is when I get in the mirror, I look in the mirror, and then I look at myself. Okay, Rosie, are you smiling? What about your facial expression? What about your posture? Okay, that's what we call the old mirror effect. We can do that as well. Practice, practice, practice. Once again, the more you practice, the more confidence you will have. Another thing you want to make sure you do, have confidence. Believe in yourself. I believe in me. Believe in you. Believe in your skills. Believe in your abilities. Even if you don't have all the skills that they are looking for, and none of us got 100%, we know that. So even if you don't have all the skills, even if you're lacking certain things, believe in yourself. I can do this. I got this. They will hire me. That's the attitude that we have to have. You have to be positive. If you don't believe in you, how do you expect that employer to believe in you? So you have to believe in yourself. Also, too, you want to be high energy. No one wants to sit there and interview someone that's dull and dry. It's an old expression I used to hear all the time, say anything dull and dry ought to be in the cemetery. So we want to make sure that we're full of enthusiasm and energy. Employers like that. Also, too, at the end of the interview, and they ask you, Ms. Carter, do you have any questions for me? It is okay to ask questions. It shows that you're listening. It shows that you're interested. It shows you're tuned in. Ask questions. It's okay. Now, the thing is, you want to make sure your questions are appropriate for that first interview. If you ask inappropriate question, you might not get asked back. So you want to make sure that you ask appropriate questions before that first interview. Okay, now let's look at some of the questions that are okay to ask. Now, you don't have to ask all of these. Maybe you can select 2 or 3 questions for that the end of the interview to ask the interviewer. So you don't have to ask all of these. So it's okay to ask questions such as, what do you like most about your about this company, working for this company, Miss Carter? How long have you been here? What keeps you here? There's nothing wrong with that type of question. Miss Carter, can you walk me through a typical day here? What would a typical day look like? What does it sound like? Miss Carter, how would you describe the company's culture? That's okay. Miss Carter, what distinguishes this company from the competition or your competitors? You can also ask, what would you expect of me during my probationary period? There's nothing wrong with those type of questions. What you want to do is stay away from those me questions. You know, those me questions, such as, how much do I get paid? How many vacation days you all gonna give me? How many days can I take off? What holidays you all get? You know, those me questions. Me. Okay, you don't want to ask those type of questions on that first interview. Now, however, if that interviewer brings it up, then it opens up the door for you. So if the interviewer say, Miss Carter, what kind of salary were you looking for? Then that opens up the door for me. I didn't initiate it, they did. So you want to stay away from those me type of questions. You want to ask those type of questions once you've been invited back or once you've been made an offer. So you want to be very, very careful there. Also, too, it's at the end, it is okay to ask them, what's the next step? Should I call you? Should I follow up with you? How soon do you expect to make a decision? Should I follow up with you in a couple of weeks or so? There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Now you have an idea of how soon you can expect to hear from them. And before you go following up with them, at least give them that time frame. So if the employer said, well, Ms. Carter, you know, you can expect to hear something from us, or you can expect us to make a decision in about 2 weeks, okay? Well, at least give them the 2 weeks before you go stalking them, all right? Or following up with them, give them that 2 weeks. And if you don't hear from them, say in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, then you can call to let them know that you're still interested. But in the meantime, too, once you finish that interview, you want to make sure you send them a thank you letter. Thank you letter. Always, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, you always send the employer a thank you letter. Even if you know you didn't get the job, even if you assume that you don't have the skills that they're looking for, you still send them a thank you letter. Why? I'm thanking you for your time. I'm thanking you for the opportunity. Tell them thank you. Thank you. And in that thank you letter, you emphasize all of that. And you emphasize too why you feel that you are the best candidate for that job. Now, thank you letters should go out within 24 to 48 hours. So if you had an interview like 2 weeks ago and you are just deciding to send a thank you letter, just don't bother. Just don't bother. Just wait till the next interview, okay? That thank you letter should go out right away. And you want to send an email, not snail mail. We know snail mail may take 6-7 days. So you want to send them a thank you email. Also, too, you send a thank you letter to each individual person that you interview with, okay? So suppose I had a panel interview. Panel interview 5 people, okay? That's 5 thank you letters. You never send out a group thank you. Dear John, dear Rosie, dear Mary, dear Sue, thank everybody. No, Rosie get one, John get one, Sue get one. Each individual person get a customized thank you letter. So when we choose not to send thank you letter, what does that say about us? From the employer's perspective, may say that, oh, well, maybe she's not that interested. Maybe she got a job someplace else. That's what it can indicate. So always make sure you send out a thank you letter within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. Now, I want to point out something too regarding when we talk about interviews, panel interviews. I get asked that question too, sometimes. Ms. Carter, I get so nervous and excited when I have panel interviews. Now, panel interview, as we know, could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people plus. That's when you have several people on a panel asking you questions. And I agree, it can be very, very intimidating. I do understand that, okay? I do understand that. Now, before you have this panel interview, just kind of take a few deep breaths. To relax yourself. So you're not so nervous and so anxious, okay? You always make sure you look the panel in the eye. You know, you want to scan the panel. You don't want to just focus on one person, okay, and leave everybody else out. Look the person in the eye. Each person, scan the panel, look the person in the eye. So this person on this end may ask you the question. So you start out answering the person question, looking them in the eye. Then you continue with the answers, scanning them in each person in the eye. Posture. Posture is good. Your posture says something about you. You want to sit up straight, not slumped over, slooping over, sit up straight. Also, too, sometimes on a panel, you could have what we call a terminator, okay? That's the person sometimes that may try to intimidate you so they can terminate you. Oh, don't be fooled by that, okay? You can handle that type of person. Just be confident and know that you have the skills, you have the qualification that they are looking for, and you can get through that. Okay, next slide, please. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Next slide, please. Okay, now these are just some resources that I can refer you to. Okay, these are just some resources that I can refer you to so that you can get maybe a little practice or get more information. And if you go to the, like I say, the internet, the website, there are all type of YouTube presentations and all type of resources out there that's available for you that you can practice before your interview. So once again, the more you practice, the more confident you will feel. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, it talks about the different industries that use virtual interviews. Now, just about any industry you apply with, any industry, they're going to use virtual interviews. You got the education field, finance, government, healthcare, hospitality, IT, manufacturing, retail, travel. All of these different industries utilize virtual interviews. So once again, like I say, this is the way of the future, and you want to make sure that you get prepared for it. We got to change with the time. Okay, that last slide is a brief video. See if we can get that going. If not, then we just wrap it up. It's okay. Where it says tips from an employer. See if we can get that one going. And that wraps.
It's time to talk about why.
Excellent. think we can hear that. It's breaking up. Okay, Senator, maybe we could just wrap it because I can't really hear it and probably the audience can't either. Okay, we can just go to the last slide then. We just wrap it up here. That probably the audience cannot hear that. Okay, I do want to apologize, but however, you can always find those type of slide videos on YouTube. I just selected a couple that I thought would be interesting to present, but you know, that's okay. You can always go to YouTube and you can find all types of videos on virtual interviewing. So I'm going to have to wrap it up a little earlier due to the videos not working properly. So if you have any questions, I think we have plenty of time so that we can answer any questions that you may have. Once again, my name is Rosie Carter. I'm the job readiness instructor here at Employer Services. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them now. Also, too, that's my email. You can always email me. I do respond to my email. My email address is rosie.carter@ees4jobs.com. If you have questions that you would like for me to answer regarding virtual interview, you can feel free to email me and I would be more than happy to respond to you. Also, too, you can continue to follow us. We have all types of events and all type of presentations and webinars. Just go to our calendar, www.ees4jobs.com/sign.calendar. And that way it'll give you a list of all the webinars that we do for the month. And I do webinars that has to do with interviewing, webinars, LinkedIn, webinars on resume writing, all type of webinars that we offer throughout the month, and you are welcome to attend. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for having me. Okay.
Rosie, are you available for any questions?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm here. Yes, I am.
We have a question. How can an employer see your social media if you have it set on private?
I think that's Doris talked about that.
Yeah. I'll answer that. I would say don't take any chances that if any of your friends or associates on social media, you may have your settings on private, but if any of your friends or associates have tagged you, have included you in a list as, you know, I was with, or tagged you in pictures or whatever, you don't know if their profiles are private or not. And any kind of search, and it doesn't have to be a really sophisticated search, but any search that someone does for you might turn up those photos, might turn up those references. So I would just caution you that if you are in job search mode, that you try to be very careful about your profile, and that you make sure that no one tags you at a party, you're holding drinks, or I mean, it's, you know, it's life perhaps, but also you know, you want to be consistent with how an employer perceives their ideal employee. I mean, Rosie said none of us are perfect, none of us have every skill set, none of us are ideal, but you want to show up the best way you can.
Perfect. If you have, we'll just hold for a couple more seconds. If you have any questions for Rosie or Mrs. Wright, you can type them into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Rosie, I do not see any more questions for you.
Okay,
So thank you.
they can feel free to email me later if they decide that they have a question.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Senator Curran, are you available? Okay, looks like he is. Oh, we have another question.
I apologize. I had a few phone calls come in.
That's fine.
So where are we at on questions here?
We have one more question, and Mrs. Wright, maybe you could answer it, or Rosie. Is it okay to email someone on LinkedIn if you do not have their contact information?
I think it is. I've done that before, but I specified my reason for doing that. So I wouldn't just email someone without having a very specific ask. So if someone said meaning as a follow-up, I'm looking at the questions in chat. Let me just answer the question thought I was answering, and you can tell me if it's clear or not, or it addresses your question. But I would say it's fine to connect with them on LinkedIn, even if you've had no contact with them before, if you're asking them for information about their company or professional association they're involved in. If you're seeking some advice that they can answer specifically and without too much research on their part, you want to make it easy for the person, but sure, that's fine. And he says sending an email after an interview. I don't know if Rosie, you want to answer this. I would just say, if you had an interview, you should have also gotten their contact information.
Absolutely,
Their
absolutely.
card, make sure you walk away with that.
Absolutely. That's pretty much what I was going to say, Darish. Yeah, once you have your interview, even whether it's virtual, you want to write the interviewer's information down, okay? And then you can send them an email accordingly. Now, if you're in the office, of course, you can get business cards and send them a thank you or follow-up accordingly.
Rosie, do you have an opinion on, sending an email as a thank you as compared to a handwritten note? How would one make the decision between those?
Well, I would always say send an email. Number one, that shows that you know how to use technology. That's number one. And then in terms of a handwritten note, we all got different penmanship. I might not be able to understand your note. So my preference would be to just send an email. We don't all write legible, do we? Okay.
Now I see another follow-up on this. What if you have a virtual interview and if it's coordinated by a recruiter, is it okay to ask for their information when they state that they will be following up with you?
Yes, I think it's okay, right? So in order to follow up with the person, you got to have that information. So yes, I would ask. I would ask.
And does that also kind of display some confidence? I mean, you'd want to have some confidence in an interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or you could ask them, okay, what procedure would you like for me to use in terms of follow-up? You could ask them that.
I've always been a big believer that you want to project as much as you want that job. You always want to project that you're also interviewing them.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. I agree.
So I do, and I apologize. I had to step away for a phone call. So I'm a little behind on announcements here. It looks like that's all our questions. I do want to let everyone know that we are going, the slide presentations from both Ms. Wright and Ms. Carter are going to be available for everyone that attended. And now I think we're going to move on to our 11 o'clock. And I want to, and I believe, unless anyone has a last question for Ms. Carter, otherwise Rosie's, I believe, going to have to go. And okay, we're going to transition to our we're running a little ahead, but we're going to transition to an introduction of employers that are participating in today's webinar. And if one of them hasn't quite got, I see everyone's name on the screen, but if someone's not quite here yet, we'll just, whoever's here, we'll let them start. I see Dan. So our first is Dan P. Allen, Executive Director of CISCO. And I know Dan well. Dan is the Executive Director for the Construction Industry Services Corporation. CISCO is a labor management organization serving 140,000 union building trades workers and 8,000 union contractors in Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, Lake, and McHenry counties. CISCO's primary mission is to strengthen the union construction market by promoting ourselves to developers and other end users. Dan came to CISCO from the city of Chicago, where he was the chief electrical inspector for 10 years, and also has been a proud member of the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 134, which is the Cook County, Chicago and Cook County local since 1982. He serves on the boards of the Chicago Building Congress, Choose DuPage, which when I was on the county board, worked very closely with Choose DuPage to do great work. The Workers' Compensation Research Institute, Hire 360, Chicago Building Code Advisory Commission, and is the chairman of the DuPage Workforce Development Board. And Dan, you must have quite the schedule with all those obligations.
Yeah. Well,
welcome, Dan. And if you want to kind of give a little brief hello, and then I'm going to introduce your Education to Careers Director, Jamila Muhammad, as well.
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Senator Curran, and all that you do for this type of programs and different career fairs that you've done that we participated. So, yeah, I'm excited to have Jamila Muhammad, who is our new Education to Careers. She's a 11-year journeywoman. She actually ran work at O'Hare Airport, Midway Airport, throughout the multiple counties. Very happy to have her talk about the opportunities for trades. These are careers. There's 26 different trades. Many of them are located, throughout DuPage, throughout all the counties that we cover. And these are 3 to 5 year apprenticeship programs, of which you get paid immediately, and you're paid while you earn while you learn. And again, they're not jobs. So they're just passing a new infrastructure bill, probably. Our infrastructure, all the schools, bridges, highways, we're going to need tradesmen and women. And I'm going to let Jamila Muhammad talk about these opportunities for people to get involved. And we have a lot of resources, and she'll give us the website where we can help people get these careers. Jamila, take it away.
Jamila, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Senator Curran. I am so excited about, being here with you guys today, and everything is going fantastic. As Dan was saying, we work with 6 different counties, over 26 trades. We also work with the DuPage Tech Center, College of DuPage, and IBEW 701 out in Warrenville, which is in DuPage County also. So the trades, we go to cisco.org, where you can find what trades are accepting applications right now. We have the electricians, pipe fitters, elevator constructors, so many different trades. You can find that on cisco.org. That's CISCO.org. We also have an apprenticeship guide, which is this book right here. It gives you a list of all the different trades along with a brief synopsis of what those trades do, how long an apprenticeship may be, basic requirements, which we already know at least 18 years of age, valid driver's license. Sometimes you have to pass an aptitude test, background check, things like that. So it's very important to look and see what trades are actually looking for, along with bringing in any documentation that they may need as far as application fee prices or who you make those things payable to.
Jamila, thank you. And so we have one other employer to introduce. Very excited that Bob Framerin is from WeatherTech, the HR recruiter. And Bob, I apologize if I didn't get your last name quite right, but we're very excited. WeatherTech is one of our great success stories out here in the suburbs, located in Bolingbrook, just in Will County. And Bob is the HR recruiter. He has been with the company for over 5 years, and his job is to find the best talent for the organization. Current positions WeatherTech is hiring for consist of a variety of manufacturing and warehouse positions, as well as corporate and sales positions. WeatherTech has been a community pillar and has been investing in American manufacturing and offer growth and advancement in a stable and growing company with a focus on safety and quality. They're just one of our local success stories that has become nationwide and quite frankly, a phenomenal product. And Bob, if you could take a few minutes to introduce yourself and WeatherTech, would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, Senator, thank you very much. Can you guys all hear me okay?
We can hear you, yes.
Cool. Yeah, so, WeatherTech, we're located here in the Bolingbrook area. What we're seeing here at WeatherTech is, I'm sure a lot of you have seen, tremendous growth, which means a lot of opportunities for a lot of the employees that we have here at WeatherTech. So, we offer entry-level positions, but also positions with some skilled trades, right? So maintenance technicians, forklift operators, setup, process technicians, the more the entry-level positions that we have that we're looking for, machine operators, warehouse personnel. A great environment to come into to start your career, to start growing with an organization that continues to grow and grow. We just opened up our first standalone store out in Broomfield, Colorado. So it is another factory store that we have out there, similar to the one we have here in Bolingbrook, but now it's in Colorado. Beautiful facility. So we're trying to expand our operations in terms of retail into other parts of the country. So if anybody is interested in applying for a position at WeatherTech, it's very simple. Just go to careers@weathertech.com and fill out an application and submit your resume. Some of the things we're looking for, some of these positions, not a ton of experience, but understanding coming into a growing organization like we have here, what we're able to offer these employees, a career path, opportunity to get trained in different positions to continue to move and further and expand your career. So a lot of exciting things happening here at WeatherTech, brand new products, new buildings, new facilities going up, just a lot of buzz about the company.
Sorry, I was muted there. Bob, approximately how many employees does WeatherTech currently have?
Right now, I would say about anywhere between 1,300 and 1,400.
Yeah. So yeah, I know it's just been growing by leaps and bounds. So one, I do want to point out in the chat area, we do have a link for applying for apprenticeship from CISCO. And at this time, we want to open it up for questions for Doris or any of our employer representatives that are on here. It's a wonderful opportunity to ask a question, make a contact. We're trying to sync everything up here. Anyone have something in the chat room, please go ahead and enter it. Bob, I would like to ask you, you handle all the, or you handle obviously the recruiting, the resumes come in, interviewing process. We've had a lot of great information given out to our listeners today about approaching not only the initial contact and resume process, but also the interview process. You're well practiced in that. Any kind of tips you may wish to add to that process? Any advice?
Absolutely. And the information that Doris and Rosie gave was phenomenal information. Some of the things that we see on our end, especially when we're doing interviews or just simply a phone interview, that initial phone call when we have it, that first impression, being excited when you answer the phone. Hey, this is Bob from WeatherTech. Am I speaking to so-and-so? Yes, you are, Bob. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever case may be. Seeing that sort of excitement or hearing that excitement in somebody's voice shows me that you're interested and you're also prepared. You didn't just roll out of bed, things like that. And also, yeah, minimizing the background noises. A lot of times I'll do phone interviews where there's music playing in the background, or they didn't really prepare and give themselves a quiet space to do those interviews where it's kind of distracting. So those are key points. But also on the resume, highlighting what you do, having an updated resume as well. Having conversations with somebody, say, I see your last position was here. Oh, that's not true. I haven't updated my resume. Always keep your resume updated, even if there's gaps in there. Put that information in there so we can see it, and just highlighting what you did at your last position. It really paints a good picture for us employers to see what you are all about, what you have done, and how we can take your background and skills and put it towards a position that we have. So again, the information that Doris and Rosie sent out spoke upon was fantastic. And yeah, just honing those interview and those resume skills definitely helps when we look at those resumes and look for the ideal candidate.
Thanks, Bob. And thank you. I see you posted where to go for WeatherTech, careers at weathertech.com. And Jamila, I see you posted your email address for any follow-up questions on apprenticeships, Jamila@CISCO.org. And Jamila, if I could ask you just come back on the line for a minute. You went through this process 11 years ago, starting out with IBEW and going through the apprenticeship process. Could you maybe just thinking back 11 years with the perspective of where you're at now, what did it mean to you? How did you do it? And, obviously I would hope at this point you're thrilled you did it, but just, maybe sharing a little of that experience would be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So it was definitely a sacrifice. Before I got in, I had 3 jobs. So just going through that whole process and understanding that, hey, they're going to expect for me to go to school full time. I'm going to have tests. I'm going to have quizzes. I know that I'm going to have to get up early in the morning because a lot of the times we start our jobs at 6 a.m. So, and we have to be ready to go with the game box open, tools ready. So I understood that I needed to get up at like 3:30 in the morning and be out of the house for that commute. So I had to quit all of my jobs. And I understood that this is a career. We get paid every 6 months, and I have to think about the bigger picture. So I had to move back in with my mom and really settle in and buckle down. And it definitely was the best decision I have ever made in my life. It was.
And it's been a decision 11 years going now.
Yep. Our benefits are awesome, how they bargain for us, just the solidarity and the family of everything. And, we go to these different jobs and it's hot some days, it's cold some days. I mean, we live in a climate where things are always changing. And being in the industry, we understand that we work through all of these things. Sometimes we may be outside, sometimes we may be inside, but it is it's life-changing.
Well, that's great. Well, and thank you for sharing that. I do want to catch up. Someone says they can't see the post that we're referring to. You have to click the chat function. And when you click the chat function, you'll see in the chat box, it should show up on your right. It shows up on my right on my screen. All the links that have been posted. We're also going to repost all these links. They will be on my my page. I'm sure Leader Durkin's going to put them up on his page, and we're also going to put them on our face. I'll have it up on my Facebook page as well, Senator Curran. You know, we certainly want to sync all this up, and there's a complete list of job availabilities, weathertech.com/careers that Bob was kind enough to post. And Bob, when someone clicks on that and takes a look at the career opportunities, sends in their information, you're extremely, I'm sure, high volume operation. No doubt with one, how attractive it is to work at WeatherTech, and two, how large an organization it's grown to. What type of expectations, timeframes should applicants be looking for? Obviously, exercising a little patience, you're not going to hear back right away. So any advice or comment you could give on that?
Yeah, so when somebody applies, we typically try to get back to them in 2 to 3 days if we can. As you mentioned, we do have a lot of applications that come in on a daily basis. So myself and my other colleagues, we do our best to get some sort of response to the candidates as soon as we can. Like I said, 2 or 3 days, maybe 4, depending on, you know, the spike over the weekends, things like that. But you'll hear from us either way, if it's a fit, if it's not a fit, if we want to move forward, if we want to do a phone interview, things like that.
Do you have a comment on what type of turnover WeatherTech? I mean, really, the people I've met at WeatherTech, it becomes a career, much like what Jamila was talking about in the trades. You know, I don't think most of the workers I've encountered from WeatherTech, because it sits just right outside my district, are really long-term employees that have been around the company for a long time. Is that kind of your observation, what you see? You're really starting on the path of a career, not just a job.
Correct, yes. We do have quite a few employees that have been here since the beginning of their career. They started maybe through a temp agency, got converted to a full-time employee, and were able to move themselves up, became a lead, a supervisor, production manager, things like that. So, you know, the employees that are successful here and have long tenure here know and understand what WeatherTech has to offer, right? Even last year during the pandemic, a lot of companies were struggling and had a hard time. We had our best year ever. So if you go ahead and you think about that and how well we're doing, this company offers stability. We offer growth opportunities for those that want it. But again, if you want to make a career out of a job here at WeatherTech, you know, it's all on you to be able to want to do that. Show us you have the passion, show us you have the drive to want to get into this company, do what's asked of you, and we will push you in the right direction. So as far as turnover, just like any company, we do have people that come in and they feel it's not a fit for them and they do leave. But we do have a lot of employees that have came into this company and saw what we have to offer, the clean environment, the safe environment, the growth potential that we have. We are dying to promote from within. We have more job openings than we have, employees that can fill these internal spots. And we want to push them in that direction so we can get them to that next level. And it can happen in as little as 6 months from your first day of hire. We can get you to that next level if you want. So a lot of opportunity for growth here and to advance your career.
Well, and that's exciting. So I see we've hit the 11 o'clock mark. I want to thank Bob, Jamila, Dan. I see Dan's still on here, and Doris for joining us today. I think this was a lot of great information. We're going to have this recorded and posted, and we're going to have all these links posted as well. If we can be of any help to you, please, feel free to reach out to my office, senatorcurran@gmail.com. or, Leader Durkin's office as well. But I want to thank all our presenters, our panelists for joining us today and really just providing a wealth of information. So at this point, I'm going to look to, close this program out. Thank you for everyone for joining us. And really, if we can be of any assistance in your job search, trying to help link you up, be a resource for you, as always, please reach out to us. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.